As long as the PSC one is, okay, Cassidy, can you hear us?
I sure can.
Okay, then we're good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. This is Luke Miller. It's Wednesday, August 6th at 8:08 a.m. We're going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with a quick round of introductions and roll call.
Well, okay, so Aaron Farmer is with the Retail Coach, so he'll be giving us a presentation on retail capacity. So this is Aaron, and then we also have our new chamber CEO, so the president CEO.
Right, correct.
Becca Hancock Whitmer joining us. So Henry, if you want to make a brief introduction to our guests.
Am I introducing here? Curative Health Plan in Austin, and then I also connected with a local profit for community services.
Emily Mathis, Vice President of Economic Development with Hayes Caldwell EDP.
Spencer Copeland, work with
I looked at you and said Henry. Forget it.
work with a company called DRS doing disaster consulting services. I serve here, the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, and the city's library.
Julian Hernandez, we met last week. I got to see what we do, and just local resident, local business owner.
Spencer Violet, again, local business owner, local resident. Been with the board about a year now.
Lauren Lyons. We've met. Okay.
Right.
I'm
Right.
Luke Miller, COO for Ascension Seton Hayes, and I serve as the vice chair here. I also sit in the couch. All right, we'll open it for citizen comments. Do we have any citizens present for any citizen comments? Okay, we'll close the citizen comment period. Move on to staff reports and presentations. So the first will be retail demand outlook.
Okay, so at the last meeting, Henry brought up a good question about, we were talking about the different retail centers that we have coming online. New Quest is coming online in the next 18 months. And so that's 500,000 square feet of retail. And then every other district that we have planned also has a component of retail. So there was just some concern of, how much is too much? Are we becoming oversaturated with retail? So I brought in our expert, Aaron Farmer with the Retail Coach. So he'll go through the presentation, but also it's very informal. Ask him any questions that you have, and he's here to help set our mind at ease.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here. Great to see everyone. Little bit of background on the Retail Coach. We've been doing this for about 25 years. We've worked with Kyle now for about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, to really understand what is that retail opportunity, right? So obviously, Kyle went from a small community and grew quickly and rapidly, and now, my wife is from Kyle, right? So when I first met her, there was about 500 people in Kyle. So to see that change is good. And then Victoria, we and Lauren and I talk all the time, but I think to that question of, are we becoming oversaturated from a retail perspective, we really wanted to kind of look at that and see where are we at from that standpoint. I can tell you we're not near saturation yet because of everything happening in the region and around you in the trade. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but the question is up there is Kyle currently at risk of becoming oversaturated with retail development? Quick answer is no, and we're going to talk about why. But really what we're seeing, what we have to understand is Kyle is much more than just the city limits, right? So if we're to go into Costco or we're to go into some of these restaurants, you're seeing people from outside of Kyle that are shopping here and eating here. So Kyle's become a destination for retail, right? And for us that, have lived here, I live in Dripping Springs, but have, spent, years here, it's kind of amazing to see what Kyle has become from a retail restaurant destination standpoint. But you serve a very large market. So we call it your retail trade area, right? So again, you're looking at more than the city limits, but where do you pull people from? So we looked at a primary trade area. We also looked at a secondary trade area. Within that primary trade area, you're serving a market of about 155,000 people. So You know, you're seeing consumers all the way from Wimberley that are coming to shop and eat here. You're seeing, you know, consumers into the San Marcos city limits there that are coming to eat here. You've got those areas in the county, the rural areas of the county used to be rural that are growing rapidly. You know, you look at Uland, you look at other places like that, certain distance towards Austin that are coming to shop here and here. Maybe they want to try to avoid, you know, the traffic in Austin. They're shopping in Kyle, right? And then out west towards Dripping Springs, out that direction. At some point, those consumers come this way. I'll tell you, even as a consumer that lives in Dripping Springs, there's certain things we come to Kyle for, right? You know, when Sprouts is up and going, we're going to come to Sprouts, right? So you serve a much larger market than the city limits here. And from that standpoint, I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. So we're, that trade area right now is at about 155,000 is what you're serving. We expect, and I think these numbers might even be too low, but we're expecting by 2030 that population to jump to just under 180,000, right? So about a 15.5% increase in population over the next 5 years. Now that's slowing a little bit from what we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years, because you can't just have, you know, double-digit growth every year. That just, in most places, that just doesn't happen. So we
did for a while.
You did
but
for a
it's
long time.
definitely slowing down.
You did for a long time, and now it's starting to slow a little bit. But those areas outside, you know, out in the trade area, those are going to continue to grow as well. So one of the things that we really pay attention to is something called retail leakage, and that's how much of your consumers or their money is being spent outside of the community, right? So there's certain categories that we're still, you know, really that we focus on with your economic development team to go after and recruit. You know, there's still leakage that takes place. You know, one of the ones that I looked at just last night preparing for this presentation, you're still seeing, you know, leakage in apparel, right? So there's, you know, you do have some, you know, traditional, you know, clothing stores and stuff here, but if you have kids or even yourselves, like you're leaving still a good bit of the time to buy clothes outside of the community, maybe to run to the mall or run to some of these new kind of mixed use shopping centers. Specialty retail is another one there as well. And then dining, even though y'all have become quite the destination for restaurants, and we're going to see many more of those come over the years. There's just certain restaurants that maybe aren't here that people are leaving. So we're continuing to go after those. Another category that I thought about, Victoria, that we put on the slide here was furniture. Okay, we're still seeing a lot of leakage in that furniture category. So people driving to the living spaces, you know, these mega stores, if you will, to buy some of the things there. But we're really paying a lot of attention. You can kind of see some maps up there, paying attention to retail leakage, how much is leaving, and what those opportunities are. So just a couple other things. We talked about this, but we talked about the size of the trade area, but we're also not just looking at how many people live here or live within the trade area. We're looking at what is that demand? How much opportunity exists? So by 2030, we're expecting the total retail opportunity or total retail demand for Kyle to be over $2 billion. So 2.09 billion. So that question of, are we becoming oversaturated? We've got to be careful that we don't oversaturate certain categories, right? Do we have too many chicken restaurants, or do we have too many, you know, whatever else it might be? But from a standpoint of looking at it from kind of a holistic approach, there's still quite a bit of retail demand. We've got a few up here, just some of the strong sectors that have grown rapidly over the last 5 years, projected over the next 5 years. We're still seeing, expecting an increase of 50 million in food services and drinking places. So again, restaurants, building materials and garden supplies. As you continue to grow, as your population continues to go up, as you continue to bring in new housing, not just in Kyle, but in the surrounding area, we expect to see a 5.2% growth in building materials and garden supplies. And then also general merchandise stores, expecting growth of about 4.57% over the next 5 years. So those are just a few of the categories. But we, you know, with the population growth you have in the trade area, demand is going up as well.
So those, okay.
I was going to ask you on that slide, the 2 billion number, can you define what that practice of retail demand? What does that mean?
Good question. So everything that we talk about when we're talking to retailers, when we go to these shows with with Victoria, Lauren, Brian, what we are doing is we're pitching the market not as at city limits, but as at trade area. So even these numbers that we're looking at, the $2 billion that are there, that's the demand that you have within your trade area. So all 155,000 people that live within that trade area, they're spending roughly $2 billion, or we expect them to spend $2 billion by 2030. So we look at what does the average Texan spend on each of these categories over the years, and then we have basically a per capita index that we use. Your per capita incomes are a little bit higher than the state average, so we're adjusting that number, and that's how we come up with that $2 billion in demand. Does that make sense?
Adjusted expectation of total purchasing. in that
Exactly.
area.
Retail purchasing.
Thank you.
And just so y'all know, so retail includes traditional retail, like we talked about, clothing stores, general merchandise. It includes restaurants, it includes entertainment, and it includes hospitality. Those are the four kind of pillars that we talk when we talk about retail. We talk about there.
Those three bullets up there, is that retail demand projections, like those bottom three that you have, or?
That's yeah, retail, basically retail growth, but retail demand. So the growth in those demand sectors. So right
And these
now,
are the three highest, right?
yeah, those are the three highest. So right now,
The area.
That are anticipated to be realized with companies coming in, or that is the?
know what the demand will be. So your consumers are going to spend 50 million more on restaurants over the next 5 years.
Wherever they may do that.
Exactly. So not saying that, it's all going to be spent here, but we're going to capture a lot of that, especially if we keep growing the restaurant sector.
But if we don't have the businesses in place here.
They're going to leave.
that's
They're going to
something
go to South Park Meadows. They're going to go to, some of the new development in San Marcos and those sort of things.
It's 50, is that an annual number? Or
That is an annual number, but that's what we're spending.
Oh, 50. Well, it's 4.56. Am I understanding the numbers right?
Yeah,
It's
so
gonna grow.
from today, in 5 years, you're gonna see that demand
It's
is up 5%. Will be up 5%.
That'd be today's. 4.56% growth. I'm just curious what the base is.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
And
I don't
what is-
have the.
and what is today's capacity?
What we can do is we'll send out a demand analysis to you after this meeting, and basically it looks at all 75 sectors, and it shows what is that demand today, and then we also have in there what is that demand in 5 years. So you'll be able to see for
But-
each sector.
I guess my question is more on the capacity. What are we able to serve today? Are we already able to serve 50? Or what would we need to grow to maximize that capture?
Like number of restaurants that would need to come in to capture that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we have today as far as food and service and dining.
Yeah, so that's a great question.
I don't know
So
what
there is,
capable of today.
you could serve that today. Now, I don't have sales tax numbers pulled up in front of me, but we can break it down. Like we can look at the sales tax and we can look at how much we're bringing in restaurant wise. We can tell, we use a group called ZagTax that does that. Do y'all use ZagTax? Okay, so we can tell that. So I can come back to you with some specific numbers like that.
Well, yeah, I was just curious as to, and I just don't know what our supply is.
Sure.
And then secondly, retail, when I was reading through the report, if I'm understanding this right, retail leakage is very much about where the Kyle community is spending money outside
Correct.
of is there the inverse
Sure.
number or figure in which people come to Kyle from outside the PTA?
So what we can do, yeah, primary trade area. Yeah.
People are coming outside because from a tourism standpoint, I'm curious to see what are we already attracting? Or like one of the reasons I looked at the apparel number and I'm like, well, yeah, there's an outlet mall 10 miles down the
Yeah.
road. There's going to be leakage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go buy something at Kohl's if I could go to the Eddie Bauer outlet or whatever.
Sure.
But what is the inverse in terms of where are we getting regional
Sure.
shopping from, and are those numbers?
Yeah, no, and they are, the numbers are strong. I mean, you're serving a much larger population base than the city limits. Plus, you've got the traffic counts that go through and people that just stop as they're, I mean, we run cell phone studies all the time here where we're able to see who's actually in your stores, right? Who's shopping at your restaurants, who's shopping at your retailers. So we actually have those percentages of, hey, it's 70% Kyle residents versus 30% outsiders. So what I think probably would be the best thing to do is after this meeting, I'll put together a couple pages that show that total demand as well as what you're talking about, kind of that inverse look at the leakage. We can put that together for you. No problem.
Is there a way to compare that to our other benchmark cities?
We can.
Thinking that if, Henry, your point there is
Sure.
we have a healthy draw from outside areas above and beyond our base population, is that substantially higher, less than other cities that we normally compare to? And
Absolutely.
do you make that comparison?
So do y'all have benchmark communities that we're using or would y'all like
We
me to put?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can absolutely.
We have standard ones that we use for every, to compare employment, and salaries and tax rates. So they're the usual suspects in the
Okay.
area.
Yeah.
So
What
I
I'll,
can get that.
so absolutely. That's another thing I can do when I get back to the office, I can have our team basically look at those benchmarks. Like what are those other communities? What are their sales? What's their growth demand look like and all of that. And I can put it into some kind of spreadsheet for you and you can kind of compare the two. I will tell you, your retail base is very healthy. Per capita, I mean, you have higher per capita retail sales in this community than most. And that's because you saw such a fast growth from a retail and restaurant standpoint, but I can absolutely just kind of lay that out for you so you can compare it to those. And in fact, on top of those standard ones you use, I'll probably pull a few others that are similar sized communities, located on a major interstate, and that way you can kind of compare them.
I think, just so that I'm understanding, the first slide was 15% growth,
Population.
population growth. How do I reconcile the
So
spending?
Just because-
15%?
yeah, that's a good question. So population is going up 15%, but as consumers, our spending habits are changing. So we're not, depending on, what our income levels those are, we're not spending as much on retail as we have in the past, or certain sectors of it. So that's an overall 4.8% annual growth rate. That's looking at demand. Now there's going to be certain categories where we're seeing actually negative growth, where people just aren't spending as much on certain sectors versus others they're spending more, like restaurants. As consumers, we're spending more going out to eat now than we are at the grocery store, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, per person.
Well, and I think if I'm reading it right, one's an annual rate. 5.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. I think if I lay it out like you're asking, and you can see the demand to those base numbers you're talking about today. I mean, we have that in our demand analysis, and we'll get that to you so you can just kind of look at each sector.
Yeah, I think I saw a
It might
table
have been
that had,
Was it? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that had
I see.
specific areas above or below. I think it was 8.7, 7.8 or 8.7 the average. Yeah, I took some notes, but I didn't print it.
Yeah, no, but I think what I can do is just put that summary document together. I think that'll be good for everybody to have anyways. And then also to Spencer's point, just kind of the, showing, how do we compare with those benchmark communities? Absolutely.
I just want to make a quick introduction to our guest. Jeff Barton has joined us, and he is the developer of the Word Place in Kyle. It's off Marketplace in Burleson. So he has a retail component in his development that he's interested in hearing.
Awesome.
So Jeff,
Nice to meet
please, if you have questions for Aaron.
Thanks. Sorry, it's late.
That's
Oh, dang it.
okay.
So just some bullet points up here, just talking again about kind of the growth and what we're expecting. But the retailers, they're paying attention to those communities that are. So they want to locate in places that they're seeing growth, not just in population but demand as well. So we're set up well for that. What that does is that just shows long term. These retailers are trying to minimize risk, right? They they can't afford to open a non-successful location. So they want to do that. At full build out, Kyle will be at 200,000 people in population here, but then you have that entire trade area around you that even more population base available. So, we're going to continue to be fastest growing or one of the fastest growing counties or areas in the country. But I think we can go to that next slide. So Kyle is, being very strategic, which I think is good. Being very careful about what types of retailers, what types of restaurants to recruit. There at the city, there's a focus right now, prioritization on mixed use planning, development agreements, district specific strategies. So Kyle's become so large that from a retail base, we can't just look at Kyle as a whole. We have to look at individual submarkets or districts is what we call them. So as we're doing this analysis, to your point, your development, the demand there will be different than in another place in the community. So we're looking at all of that. Especially with the mixed use, there's an opportunity built in customer base right there. Retailers, restaurants, they pay a lot of attention to population density. So as part of these, you bring in these big mixed use developments, you've got residents, you've got office users that become customers at these retailers and restaurants. One focus or a big focus right now as well is experience driven development, experience driven environments. So you've got the public places or public spaces, you've got the dining patios, you've got the walkability. Consumers are looking for experiences, right? So they don't want to just go eat at a restaurant. They want to go eat at a restaurant, and then there's somewhere for the kids to play outside, or go, hey, after we eat, we can go walk around the lake or something like that. So we're seeing a lot of that. And one of the things that we've keyed on, in fact, Victoria and I are meeting after this meeting to talk about is entertainment retail, right? So family entertainment's a big thing that we hear from consumers here all the time. What types of family entertainment can we get? We're working closely with NewQuest. We're working closely with some of the other developers in town to identify entertainment users that can come in and just build on that retail. So focusing on that mixed use, the district focused area, that's going to help. It helps minimize risk and oversaturation, like we've been talking about.
Is there a significant cannibalization between mixed use developments? What you did was shift the buying pattern from one side of 35 to the other. Not every new mixed use is accretive to the total, right?
Sure. Yeah, we have to be careful about that, right? We're focused. We pay a lot of attention to cannibalization. That's part of the reason why we're so focused on being targeted with retailers, restaurants, developers that we go after. When a new development's announced or a new development comes in, we run a void analysis to basically look at cannibalization and see what retailers, what restaurants are in this area that can come in and be successful, because it doesn't really do anybody any good if we're just moving people around, right? And they're moving from one shopping center to another. So we are paying a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that the city's also trying to do is in these districts, we also want the developers to build their own experience and make it unique. So that way, whatever experience you get at the workplace, you won't get at, for instance, the Kyle Park district. So I think that is also, if you differentiate yourself from the other districts, then you have that draw that you won't get.
Yeah, it's hard to balance between unique experience, but also it's like you could beat yourself right out of it.
Sure.
Where there's got to be a nail salon, a haircut place. You got to have those, but then also it's got to be different too.
Yeah, it's got to be that healthy mix, right? So you've got to have those amenities that you expect to see in the shopping, or just those typical, like you said, the nail salon, the haircut place, but then, figuring out what else can we build on that,
Right.
And kind of you're almost kind of creating these communities of their own, like Kyle Park, that's up here right now. Like it's kind of going to be its own community in a sense, right? And if you didn't want to, and you lived in those apartments that are going right there, you would never have to leave Kyle Park if you don't want to, right? And that's what these new developments are becoming, are kind of that it's a place, a live work play type place. So yeah. But Kyle Park, this is the NewQuest development. 18 to 24 months, we'll see some things coming online. Does that sound about right?
Yep, they'll be doing their groundbreaking. I think we talked about this last time. Their groundbreaking in the fall, sometime in the fall when they have a solid mix of tenants to announce. But you will see this is different. You know, this is 500,000 square feet. Jeff, how much retail do you?
35,000.
Yeah, so very different districts, but a very different experience that you will get at the Woodplace versus this large power center. This will be more like what you see at Creekside and New Braunfels. It's the same developers, same, and the clothing. I mean, I hope that we can capture some of that retail leakage here
Oh, and we will.
for the clothing. So I know that I go to Creekside. Just you know, there's stores there that we don't have here.
Yep.
So this is great example of a mixed use district, a larger one. Oh, sorry.
So kind of in summary, we've already talked through a bunch of this, so I won't. The growth is going to continue from a retail standpoint. But again, remember, we're not just looking at the city; we're looking at that entire trade area of those consumers that are coming in. So I don't think we need to go through these numbers.
Yeah.
Conclusion here: Kyle's demographics, trends, demand increases, and strategic planning demonstrate a strong capacity to support continued development. Now, we don't want to grow just to grow, right? You want it to be smart growth. And I think that's what your city staff partnered with us and this committee here is we're trying to be, it's good growth, right? All growth is not good growth, if that makes sense. So we need those retailers to have confidence for future investment in Kyle. Now, the retail industry is a tricky one. You're going to see retailers move. You're going to see restaurants leave the market. Use Z Tejas as an example, right? The good news with Z Tejas is you've got a great building right there. In fact, very well built building, something unique. There's some really good conversations going on about a restaurant coming in to take that over. So, don't be phased too much if you see some restaurants going out and some retailers going out. That's part of the industry. There's always new ones that come about. So really, honestly, excited about what's to come.
I have 3 questions, but I don't want to be, I can talk to you offline.
Go ahead, please. It's your time.
You hit an interest point with the experiential offerings and stuff. For Kyle, did you notice or note specific, like we compare ourselves to our peer cities and stuff, what types of experiential offerings did you see you think we are lacking sorely today?
So great question. So I mentioned experiential retail. The other phrase or kind of the new term we're using is retail-tainment, right? So it's kind of the merging of like retail and entertainment. So, we've talked a lot about, the need. So there's a need for family entertainment, but I think there's just a need for entertainment as a whole. Some of the groups that we've been talking to, there's some golf type concepts that we've been working with right now that we've been talking to. We've been talking to like a dog park / restaurant that has had interest in this market. Those are some of the ones that we've looked at. We're actually meeting today to kind of really hone in and talk about some specific entertainment uses to go after. Would love to hear from this group. Y'all live here, work here. If y'all think of others that are looking at, but we started, I guess it was back January, February, the entertainment conference. February.
Yeah.
We there's a big entertainment conference. It's called the Entertainment Evolution Experience Conference in Los Angeles. We actually went out there for the first time and basically targeted entertainment users to come out here. All the big wigs, entertainment groups are there. So we're going to do that again this coming year. But we're trying to put a big emphasis on entertainment. So it's a mixture of kind of family entertainment, but also just entertainment for everybody. I mean, you've got the theater, right? Those sort of things. You've got the arcade that comes along with that. But some of those more unique entertainment uses is really what we're focused on.
What are we doing regionally? When I think Buda, San Marcos, and obviously Austin.
Sure.
How do we anticipate any developments they have that could result in our leakage? Sure, you could do. I mean, San Marcos saturated. Is South Austin? Is Buda? Or any other destinations? who are we losing to?
Sure.
And are we filling, or, are they planning anything?
Yeah.
Judah just got a living spaces. Oh, okay, there goes our furniture.
So that's a good question. So obviously we work closely with the partnership, to really understand what is coming in, what that's gonna look like over the years. I mean, you're gonna see development take place. These surrounding markets, Buda with living spaces, that is gonna have an impact here on the market, but I think we're talking to some other
Yeah.
furniture stores that'll help with that. I'm trying to think of big projects that are gonna impact this. Same markets, right? Even though that's right. I mean, you don't know if you're in San Marcos or Kyle right there. But that's gonna have a level of impact here. But I think there's also an opportunity for Kyle to capitalize on all of those people that are gonna be stopping there. I'm trying to think, what are some of the bigger projects?
Well,
in San
in
Marcos?
when we talked about the Buc-ee's in San Marcos, the two corners, the prime corners on the north side of Yarrington are vacant in Kyle. And so huge opportunity there for us to capture those customers that are getting off the highway and heading into Buc-ee's. So I'm excited. We didn't get Buc-ee's, but I'm excited that San Marcos did. And you're right. So many people asked us, "Hey, congratulations on Buc-ee's." I'm like, "Thank you, thank you, really," because it will benefit the whole region. But it is a San Marcos project. I didn't know about living spaces. Thanks for about that. So that's great. I hadn't heard about that. Oh, I thought you meant.
Oh, I was like, I didn't even know that.
No, the press release did not come here. The press release was not.
I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed because we're talking about living spaces. So I was
If,
disappointed.
I said if.
Oh, if.
Oh, if, okay.
You know, like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a big. Well, yeah, sure. But are there other big laws that mitigate our effect? Last question. Maybe this is off of it. From advise one thing, there's one priority.
I think it's kind of to what we talked a little bit about is being very targeted, right? I think a lot of being specific to these districts, right? I think as you see communities grow from a retail standpoint, we can't just say, hey, we'd love to have XYZ here in Kyle. We've got to be very specific about where we're going to, because to your point about cannibalization and those sort of things, where we put somebody is ultimately going to impact, the community there. So I think that's what we've talked about, Victoria and I, and Lauren and Brian and the rest of the team here. What we've talked about is really trying to be even more targeted than we've been in the past. Is where do we put it, right? Because that's ultimately going to impact the community as a whole. We're still really focused on trying to get a grocery store on the east side of the highway. It's been quite the struggle, to be honest with you, but we're still having those conversations almost on a daily basis. So I think, I don't know if that makes sense, but trying to when we first started working with Kyle, because I worked with Kyle way back, before any of this retail was here, you need it all. And it was really just kind of a holistic approach. Now it's a much more targeted approach. I think working with individual developers like yourself and the New Quest and those sort of things, that's where we can help you.
Exactly what I was going to say. So I think that we encourage the developers to not just settle for the, low hanging fruit or, the easy sale of your site along 35. It's how is that going to impact the entire district? We want a nice mixed use district. And we do appreciate the developers that have held out, because we have several of them that could have sold their properties many times over, made lots of money, and built apartments. Yeah, but and so it's us encouraging our developers in working with them and providing them the resources of, here's Aaron, he's here to help you. How can we help? We're working on the other one on 150 as well.
Yeah.
So I think us being the resource for them.
What's the deal with the grocery chains on the side of the tile? Is it land?
We have Lane. We've got a couple of spots.
Yeah, there's,
It's
some of the projects have backstories too.
yeah.
That you have to work with.
I mean, there's plenty of demand on the side of the highway. There's not many grocers out there right now, right, that are moving. So you got one big, everybody knows HEB, and you know they're putting a lot of money into their store here, and they're already pulling people from across the highway that are shopping there. So they're not convinced yet that it makes sense to put a location on that side because they're already pulling. Yeah, so we're talking to others there, but that's the thing. If you've got a huge HEB that's already pulling those customers, it goes back to that cannibalization point. If we put one over here, how much is that going to cannibalize our HEB plus?
Right.
But I think, especially going out to the east, like you're looking at like Uland and those places out there, as those places can, I mean, I drove to Uland the other day. They got a Whataburger.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought? I mean,
Yeah.
and
That was huge news.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. So that being said, all that population growth out there is just gonna help fuel the fire for additional groceries east of 35.
Well, and also don't be surprised if some of these grocers have already acquired the land and are holding it
Oh yeah,
for years, as we know HEB does.
and
So
HEB is the
they pull the trigger when they're ready. How
They're
long
the-
do they own that site?
Oh, they've owned it forever.
Right.
I mean, they're the largest real estate or one of the largest real estate investors in the state. So but they're also really, really good land bankers. Getting them to pull the trigger on the site, it's all in their time. We can get them as much information as we can, and that'll help speed up the process. But
Well, and I think I've mentioned this to the group before, but the project that we call Project Two Step, which is the rendering of the picture that you see here, but it's the property that is just behind the Dairy Queen on 150 East that's split by 150. HEB owned that land, and they were going to build their Kyle store there until all the development started happening at 1626. So that is a prime site for a grocery store, but it's deed restricted, so no grocery here. So that's also some other.
an interesting tidbit about that site, that was the number one Dairy Queen in the country for years and years. I don't know if it still is or not, but that
all
was
we
the
had.
number one for years.
Yeah.
So,
Aaron, inside of your report, you had a section that broke down expected growth by sector. They all had the same kind of trend lines, 4 to 5%, which matches the 4.8
Sure.
annual growth that we were expecting. Except for the outlier I saw was like children's apparel, which even though we have 16% population of that bucket, that was like less than 1%.
sure.
Should I read that data to say that that sector is currently at capacity? We're not incentivizing that area, just trying to understand how to
Yeah.
match the different.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not spending money or there's not growth in children and infant wear. There's just not many children and infant wear stores anymore by themselves. So there are a few, like you think of like the Bye Bye Babies, what are some other children's stores?
Yeah, like
Children's Place, those sort of things.
Carter's.
They're not expanding that. So that's why you didn't see as fast of a growth there.
Market condition, not
Exactly.
investment or not saturation.
Yeah, it's based off of what is that just nationwide, what are these stores doing? I mean, if you look at the entire apparel, all the apparel categories there, it wasn't 4 to 5% growth. It was, if I remember correctly, it was like 2% growth in a lot of those clothing sectors. And it's because as consumers, we're changing, right? We're buying things online, the Amazons, those things. So actually physical stores and those sort of things, the demand is not as high as it was in the past. And that's all, we saw that happen kind of post-COVID, after 2020, people just weren't buying as many clothes. Now we're starting to see that come back up, but that's part of it as well. Yeah. And I've got actually a really good, summary document that it kind of explains why you see certain percentages, why they might be down this year, up the next year, those sort of things. That's why we run that demand analysis every single year. But when I put that kind of one pager fact sheet together, comparing, Kyle to the other communities, I'll include that as well. And I think that'll be good. It's good information for you there too.
And Victoria, just a comment, I think that we should spend a lot more time on that retailtainment kind of concept, especially if our past conversations here regarding Texas State changing conferences and trying to capture some of that tourism dollars, that's an area of growth. To dive in.
In perfect timing, because we have a meeting about that after this. So,
Can I ask, it's very difficult to quantify, right? But I just wonder what your crystal ball says about boutique versus national. You know, boutique and regional, as we talk about experiential, somebody's trying to do an experiential
Sure.
mixed use development.
So I'm a big believer that if you're going to have a successful retail community, you've got to have a healthy mix, right? You've got to have those those local, those regionals, those nationals. For the longest time here in Kyle, it was mostly focused on nationals, right? The nationals coming in, but now that you have that national base built up pretty well, we're starting to see a lot more of these boutique, not just retailers, but restaurants wanting to come here as well. So I think timing for that is really good. Timing for your development is really good because we are starting to see those more unique players interested in the market. I think a lot of it, those boutique ones, they need the draw that the nationals have, right? And yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll follow up with a couple of documents over the next day or two, and I'm going to be here. So if anybody has any questions.
Let me just go to the next.
And actually, can we pause real quick? Would we miss the meeting approval of meeting minute?
I skipped it, yeah. Accidentally.
It happens.
We can go to that now while I pull up the other presentation.
So we have our prior meeting minutes attached. Anybody have a chance to review them or willing to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have movement and seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, we can go on to the staff update.
Sure. So our first staff update would be an update on July 2025 sales tax revenue report, which is included in the packet.
Yes. So if you can't see on the screen, Lauren printed a packet out for everybody. So 1.6 million in receipts received in July. That was still down from our budget projections. It's about -6% from our projections. But compared to last year, if you go all the way to the second to last column, it's still a 4.5% increase year over year. But our projections are down. And then if you go to the very bottom row, and you'll see that for projections for year to date, we're still down about 4.6%. And but compared to last year, we're still up. But I think that our city definitely focuses more on the projection. And we've seen this across the region, just a bit of a slowdown in the economy. So it's not anything that we didn't expect, but we're just adjusting our projections for the coming years to be a little more conservative. So that is.
I think we talked about just, sorry to interrupt, but like from a retail perspective, we're seeing this across the board. We're seeing a little bit of a decrease in almost every community. You know, the kind of collective wisdom is if we do see an interest rate drop or two before the end of the year, we're going to start to see retail spending in Texas come back up a little bit. So we're watching these closely, but just a heads up on that because sales tax, a lot of that's related to retail. So.
Okay, and certificate of occupancy. Liba Tortilla has received their certificate of occupancy, and then a European Wax Center. So hopefully, it's my understanding it's going to open within the next month, hopefully by the end of the month. So I've had their food. I think it's great. Can't wait to try them out. They're over next to Amberwood Retail, pretty close to your neck of the woods, so y'all can have another place to have a lunch. And this also is an update on our leadership event. So we have secured a lady by the name of Jasmine Brand. She runs a company, it's an organization called Her Texas, and she focuses a lot on and I don't want to make the whole focus around women, but she in particular gets women together to help support other women-owned businesses. So part of the focus of the leadership event that we'll have on October the 15th will be focused on her conversation, but she's going to make a broader connection. You don't have to be women-owned business, but it's just leaders supporting leaders. At the event that we went to where Ron Kitchen spoke, he talked about, and he made reference to if you have a church group and everyone usually goes out to lunch after church, and just making sure that as a community, we could say, hey, let's go eat at Vaqueros today. They're in downtown Kyle. And then, next Sunday we eat at another restaurant. So it's the community supporting local businesses and each other. And that's basically what Jasmine does in particular is get women together to go support other women-owned businesses or buy women's female entrepreneurs products. So she's great. Lauren and I heard her speak at another conference, and she's amazing. So more to come on this topic. We also have another presenter that we are trying to secure as well, but I'll send out more details on this event. It's geared towards all of our local leaders and business owners and also community members. It'll be at the Plum Creek Golf Course at the Mockingbird Room, and it'll be a half-day event. It's talked about 8:30 and then ending at noon with a grab-and-go lunch or stay and talk and network. So I think it'll be a great event, and I'll share more information as we have. Okay, and yeah, well, so we, Lauren and I are getting a logo made specifically for this event, and then our communications team will help us market the event. And also Jasmine has a huge following of women in Texas. She's from Dallas, but and so she's anxious to start. She just asked us yesterday if she could start advertising. We're going to also host an event the day before, and she just wants to meet with a group of local entrepreneurs as well. And yeah, and she's got a big reach throughout Texas. So, and I'll also, if once we get the information out, I'd love if the board would share it as well, and if y'all could join us. Okay, so I think the last item is the city manager's report. Are we good on time? Okay, we have 5 minutes. Perfect. So the city manager gave a report to the city council. This is on July the 26th. He focused, our strategic plan focuses on 5 different areas, and economic development primarily falls under thriving and prosperous economy. So all of my strategic plan goals are under thriving and prosperous economy. I can't see it, but let me just, I think this is our, I'm gonna move. Okay, so this is part of our strategic plan is also the city council's vision to shape the future, be the undisputed economic development powerhouse in Hays County, innovative, business-friendly destination, grow our workforce, emerging technologies, long-term sustainability to drive prosperity and position the city for continued leadership in the region. So it's a very bold statement, but I think that with this strategic plan, we hit all of those highlights. And thriving and prosperous economy. The city continues to solidify its role. Oh, this was a statement from his presentation, but I thought it was great to share with you that over the last 3 years, and I kind of like that he, I put these numbers together for him, but it kind of helps me kind of see where we came from. Over $543 billion in private development investment in Kyle. And this is just for commercial growth and almost 3,000 new jobs over the past 3 years. So I have the breakdown of primary sector employers, and then, so it's about 900 of them were in retail services, but about 2,000 were in the primary sector employment. So that's great numbers for us.
Awesome.
So these are just highlights. And obviously, our efforts are going to continue for continued job growth. So some of the highlights that he gave related to thriving and prosperous economy, the city established another TERS over the downtown district. So TERS number 6 was specifically to help with downtown reinvestment, some infrastructure needs. It's a kind of an aging infrastructure in downtown. So TERS number 6 will be very, very helpful for that. And then the city also expanded TERS number 4, and that's on the east side of Kyle. And the goal for TERS number 4, in both of these TERS districts are in partnership with Hays County. So we do appreciate their partnership because with their combined investment, then these projects could happen a lot faster. TERS number 4 will primarily extend Goforth Road. So, which last night is now renamed to Chevo Pastrano Senior Parkway. Anyhow, so this is the road that runs from the new FM 110, Yarrington and FM 110 all the way through, and this is going to punch through all the way to FM 150 East, and then it'll continue on to Beebe Road. But this is where the city wants the reinvestment from these dollars will be to continue building out Chevo Pastrano Senior Parkway all the way to FM 150. So this will be great, and this is kind of that intersection at 150 and this new road is where there's also retail opportunity there that I know Aaron and his team have been talking to. So could it be a great place for a small grocer? Maybe. That's what our council has asked us to really investigate and try to recruit a grocer to that area. So. Of course, we launched the Small Business Kickstart program. We had some major milestones. Sprouts retail shop should be opening up soon in October. Nitro Swim broke ground. Plum Creek Technology Park is over behind Nitro Swim. And so this is another employment center that at full build out will potentially house over 1,000 new employees there. And that is the goal of that area in Plum Creek is zoned for employment. So this fits perfectly in line with those goals. Public-private development to continue. Oh, we've talked a lot about the city-owned properties, the restaurant pad site, the office, and the hotel and convention center. So just those are all still in review and in different phases of review throughout the committees that are reviewing them. But using those city-owned properties that have been donated or in exchange with developers to help spur economic development. So those are great projects. Ongoing initiatives, Kyle Park District is the retail center. We have our Sportsplex in Plum Creek. And then we also had a presentation a couple of meetings ago, or maybe last meeting, the Unified Development Code. So that is looking at our old 20-year-old code and making some enhancements to that. And then, of course, we have a big focus on downtown redevelopment. To date, we've invested over $24 million in downtown alone. And so some short-term improvements, we're going to be focusing on beautification and landscaping, repurposing the Krug Center, and then some enhancements and improvements to Mary Kyle Hartson Park, which would also include restrooms for the park. And then long-term improvements, we need to find a location for a parking garage in downtown. So that is our number one focus right now. And then, of course, with the city, the property that the city has acquired over the past year, 18 months, we'd like to engage with development partners to help make that vision a reality. And then there's also some talk of an expansion and redevelopment of City Hall. That building is about 20 years old now, and we've outgrown that space. So there's a lot of need for additional municipal offices. So I think, lastly, more vacancies. So Eddie submitted his resignation to me a few weeks ago. So we have a seat open, and I believe he is seat number 1. So that, and then we have Jenna's seat that she vacated a while back too. So we're looking at seat 5. So we're looking at different applicants for those seats. And then we do have seats 1, 3, and 7 terms expiring, which is Luke and both Spencers, but all of them have indicated that they'd like to remain on the board and be reappointed. So those reappointments will come in. Thank you. And then lastly, we
We're on that topic with Eddie vacating. We no longer have a chair. We have to pick a new chair. We're just waiting until October when we have everybody's only 2 more meetings out from now. And we're going to have the seats filled, do we think, or do we think it's still vacant? Is
I
it
think-
unknown?
our goal is to try to have the seats filled by the second meeting in September, the council meeting, so that we can make the appointments. I think, Luke, they may ask, the committee may ask if you want to sit in on some of the interviews, because that was typically Eddie's job to help do some of the interviews. So if you have time, there's also a virtual option if you have, some time to dedicate to joining some of the interviews. So I think that we should wait, maybe until we try to get a full board, if that might be in October.
2 months from now, that
Mhm.
makes sense to me.
Yeah, so if you don't mind continuing your vice chair role. And lastly, this is for Becca. The board does have a seat reserved for the chamber CEO. And it's an ex officio seat, so we'd be honored if you would like to be.
Oh,
part of
absolutely.
our
Oh,
board.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great, so thank you. And the appointments will come in September, and I'll let you know when that is. I think the council would love to meet you as well. If you haven't already, if they haven't already found you.
No,
I'm sure-
not
no.
yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Becca, for joining us. Do you have any comments? I think we had board member updates, but do you have anything you want to share last?
Well, I'm looking forward to working with everybody. This is my day 8 on the job, so I'm just, learning and, getting my head around everything, but I'm definitely looking forward to being a part of the growth here. I mean, this is very exciting, and look forward to working with everybody, and yeah, hopefully we can partner on things, and that's it. Yeah, just
You
Can't
you're
wait.
joining us from Wimberley, correct?
right. Yes,
Wimberley
yes. I was the
Chamber, so-
director, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes, we all from Wimberley all go to Costco. We all come up here. I've been doing that for a long time. So yeah, and I'm not alone. So
Okay, in the interest of time, we'll.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
You.
Go.
And then you make sure you sign the minutes for posting last time.
You're welcome. I'm trying to figure out how to stop.
She should have.
Stop. There we go.